everyone, welcome back to video 4 of our Beginners series. One, we went over our props and modifications. 2, we went over a breakdown of a sun salutation and a vinyasa. And 3, we talked about twists and using our core. So for this video, we are going to be talking about backbends. And these videos are just a general overview. If you would like more of an in-depth workshop, then that's a great place for a private yoga session, or look for workshops that may be up on the website. But for today, let's talk about our backbending. So like our last video, I talked about using your core and why it's really important to understand how to engage your core for twisting. That's also going to be the case for backbending. As I stated, our lumbar spine, our lower spine, is the most flexible and unstable part of our spine. And so when you backbend, you think, oh, it comes from your lower spine because that's the first place that's probably going to bend. But again, that is not the case. We want to keep our lower spine healthy and happy and safe. And so you want to try to start your back bends actually from your thoracic, from your middle upper spine area. And there are ways to do that, but that's just, something to keep in the back of your mind, that if you're back bending and you're starting from this lower spine area and your back hurts, or it just doesn't feel right, or, it's not working for you, it may be because you're putting way too much pressure on that lower, more, sensitive spine area than engaging your entire spine as a whole piece. Another thing to note is before you do any back bends, you should really have very warmed up shoulders and hip flexors. Your shoulders and your hip flexors are also going to be part of those back bends, because if you think about it, just show you, if I'm bending backwards, if I'm reaching back, what's going with me? My shoulders, depending on how you're weight bearing. If I'm doing it from, a sitting position, I may not be putting much weight on my shoulders, but if I'm laying down doing a wheel pose, my shoulders are going to get a lot of that weight. So I want to make sure that this is very warmed up. And same thing with my hip flexors. So these muscles some of them are connected to actually your lower spine and your pelvis. And so anytime I tilt this, it's going to be pulling these muscles in different ways. And if these muscles are tight, that's also going to affect how my pelvis tilts and how my back bends are. So just, something to be cautious of. Make sure that before you try a back bend, you do a warm up, and you warm up your shoulders and your hip flexor areas, and probably just smart to warm up your entire body. So different kinds of back bends. There's a lot of different kinds of back bends in yoga. Let's look at a couple common poses. A nice warm up that's also a back bend is our cat pose, or cat-cow pose, I guess. So cat pose, you're pressing into your hands, extending your spine up, curling your chin toward your chest, pulling your belly in and up. And then cow pose, you're bringing your chest forward, dropping your belly, pressing your hips back. So you can see, it's very clear that I'm getting movement in my spine here. As I said, this is also a great warm-up in general. I love this just to start a yoga session. So we have our belly down back bends, which I'm gonna move this guy so it doesn't get weird on me. So our belly down back bends. Sphinx pose, this is a back bend. It could be more intense the more pressure I put into my lumbar spine, or I'm sorry, my thoracic spine, or I could be coming forward a little bit more, less pressure on the spine. But this is a type of back bend. Our cobra that we do is a back bend, and our up dog is a back bend. So that's why whenever you do those belly down poses, we talk about, engage your core, engage your core, engage your core, because we don't want to be over flexing our lumbar spine. We don't want that to get overused. So it's very important that you keep those core muscles engaged and tight and know, or at least have an idea and understand when you're going too far. Another important tip is to pay attention to where your feet are. So your feet in a back bend should be toes parallel with hips, knees parallel with toes, and that is going to affect what's happening here. So if you're in a wheel pose and your toes are facing out, what does that do? It's externally rotating your thighs, which may not seem, too crazy at first, but when we externally rotate our thighs, we're pushing more pressure onto our lower back. When we're not externally, when we're internally rotating our thighs, we're giving these muscles more space in the back and leaving this more open to have more room down here and not press our glutes into our lower spine. Now, how does that look in a typical back bend? Well, bridge pose. So you hear bridge pose a lot. I'm gonna grab my little block so I can show you a trick here. But you hear bridge pose cued a lot. So we're gonna lay on our back, and you want to pay attention to your feet, because a lot of times, people don't know that their feet are actually pointing out when they're doing this. So, you want your feet pointed straight, knees up, and then press into your feet, lift your hips, engage your belly, pull your glutes toward your heels towards your glutes, feel that engagement, and then maybe lift your chest, lift your chin, and then rest down. If you would like to practice pulling your thighs toward each other, keeping your legs in the right alignment, you can place a block or even a book between your thighs when you do this. So squeezing your legs into this block is going to keep them from externally rotating. Press into the block, lift your hips, pull your glutes toward your heels, and see how that feels. A good way to practice if you're just trying to get used to if you're just getting started in back bends, or you're just trying to get used to doing them. And my last little advice for your back bends is try not to do too many in a row. So you want to give your back a break. Your first instinct after doing a back bend may be to do child's pose, but before you do that, give your spine a break so that you're not, bending it one way, bending it the next way, bending it, and just keep doing that back and forth, because that can wear down on those joints and that cartilage, the bones. So instead, just give yourself a minute. Sometimes when you see us do back bends, you'll see something like this, where it's like, let's do, a camel, back into your back bend, and then come up and just sit on your heels and take 3 to 5 breaths. Just let your spine readjust. And then when you're completely done with your back bends for your practice, then you can do, more of your forward folds and your child's pose and go into the rest. Just, be cautious, never push yourself, and know your limits for the day and keep practicing. See you for video number 5, our last video of the series. Namaste.